Hi everyone, it's Dee Rondinella, Technology Training Coordinator for the Stark Library, with this month's Sewing Saturday. This Saturday we are going to make a bowl cozy. A bowl cozy is a specially made pot holder that fits a bowl. You can use it if you've got hot items inside of it, and it will protect your hands. You can make them in many different sizes and shapes even if you so choose. But what we're going to work on today is a standard breakfast bowl and a 10-inch square. So I'm going to put this aside for a second because I'm going to show you some of the options that you can be doing. I happen to have sports fans inside of my house, so when I'm choosing my fabric for my bowl cozies, I keep things like that in mind. Like for instance, here's my Cleveland Browns. Maybe my husband would like a bowl cozy for a big bowl of popcorn. I also have a musician in my household, and so maybe for her, I would go ahead and make bowl cozies for that. And if it's the holidays, keep that in mind as well, and select a fabric for your bowl cozy that matches your holiday that you would like to celebrate. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I'm going to move this out of my way so I can show you the different things that you will need in order to get your bowl cozy up and running. First thing you're going to need is your fabric. Once you choose your fabric, you do have to make sure that you have at least a 10-inch square. You can use yardage like I showed you, or you can use something like a fat quarter. It's entirely up to you. You can have your bowl cozy so that, like mine, it is indeed reversible with two different colors or two different patterns, or you can make them exactly the same color. It's your choice. You will also need a ruler of some sorts in order to do your marking, and for cutting you can use a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors. I also keep in hand an extra ruler for the smaller markings, and I also use something called a twist crayon. Now I like to use these because they glide across the batting very smoothly and they don't leave markings on my rulers. But if you don't have something like that, you can use a regular magic marker, or you can use something like an invisible ink pen that disappears eventually. But nobody sees it, so it doesn't matter. And one of the other things that I like to do is use sometimes an accent thread, and that gives it a little drama when you are creating your bowl cozy. But again, that's a choice. So let's get started, shall we? I went ahead and I have here my 10-inch squares already cut, but I need to tell you what you need. What you have here is your first 10-inch piece, and I also have a 10-inch square piece of batting. With that, I have a secondary piece of fabric, and I have another piece of batting. Now, the reason you have to use the batting, that's the insulator that's inside of your bowl cozy. Now, if you use something like Insulbright, you do have to be careful because some of those materials are not microwavable. And so you do need to be careful what you're putting in. I use a standard 100% cotton batting. Now, if you're like, well, how am I going to get a hold of a piece? Well, they do sell them at fabric stores, but if you know a quilter, I'm sure there's plenty out there they would like to give you. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up so you can see what it's going to look like. I have my first piece and I'm putting it right side down onto the table. I have my batting and I'm laying it directly on top of the piece of fabric. I'm doing the same thing to this same piece, my opposing piece, and I'm placing that down as well. Now the next thing I want to do is put my sewing marks in. Even after 40 years of sewing, I still use markers on my fabric to ensure that I have a straight sewing stitch. So how you're going to do it is you're going to put an X inside or on the back of your batting. Now you want it on the batting because that's the side you're going to have facing up on your machine. You don't want to put the batting down because the feed dogs of the machine can catch it and pull it, and you don't want it to do that. So I'm going to take my crayon and I would draw straight point to point, and you want to be pretty exact because you want the seam to look nice when you're done. Now I'm going to set this aside because I already have markers on my fabric that I'm going to show you and explain. First of all, I said you needed to create your X, and you do that on both pieces. But another marking that you need to have are these little markings that you can see. Do you see that in the center of each of the X points? Now the reason they're there is we're going to create something called a dart, and that dart is what gives your bowl cozy the lift or the raise up of the fabric and keeps it secured. It has to be 2 inches by 1 inch. So 1 inch coming down into a triangle with a 2 at the 2-inch mark to be its peak. And I'll show you how to do that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the X. I line it up. Now the great thing about batting is it will push and shove so that it is greatly aligned. You want it really as perfect as you can get it. So I'm going to bring it over to my machine and I'm going to sew this, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back and I've got the first part sewn. If you can look inside of here, I have my X from point to point, and I also have the dart on this one. Now this dart is measured 1 inch in, and it's 2 inches to the bottom or towards the center. Now, for those that have never put a dart in fabric, I thought I would take a moment and show you how to do it. This piece, I have the X in, but you notice I don't have any of the darts in. An easy way to do that is I fold it in half, exactly in half, matching my seams in the corners. I make sure there's no bumps in here, and then I know I am exactly 2 inches down because I put my mark in already. Well, now I'm going to put a small mark 1 inch in with my little crayon here, and I'm going to come over to my machine, and I'm just going to go at an angle from that top down to the 2-inch marker. So here I go. And there is my first dart. I would then turn it, and I would do the same thing on the opposite side. Mark it at my 1 inch, and I would continue on till all sides are completed. Now, for those of you who have a little bit on the stubbornness machine, maybe it doesn't like a thicker fabric, you can change the tension or you can make the stitch wider. That will help your machine get through the thicker fabrics or the multiple layers. I'm going to do one more, and then after a while you get to eyeballing it and you know where that marker is using your plate on your machine, so you can just simply eyeball it and go. All right, now we've got them done. Now we're almost ready to put our bowl cozies together. Some people like to cut their darts. I don't. I keep mine solid because it's easier for me to nest those darts together when it comes to putting the entire thing, sewing that outer area. So here, let's go ahead and stack this. I have one of them right side out. Now I'm going to turn this one upside down, flip it inside out, and I'm going to just simply, gently put it inside of that cozy. Do you see that? It's all stacked up. Now, to help me with my lines so they're straight, I line up my X's and I put them, a pin in them, just like that. And I do it to all 4 sides. One of the other things you need to remember when you're sewing around is that you leave a place in your hem so that you can flip it right side out. I leave about 1.5 inches to 2 inches opening so that as I am turning it, it doesn't tear any of the fabric or cause any harm or with stretching. I then am going to nest it, and that means I'm going to pull my darts in opposite directions, and once again I'm going to pin it. It's your choice if you want them pinned. You don't have to. Depends on how steady your hand is. And then when we're ready, we're going to start to sew. Let me get these last couple so that I'm comfortable. People ask me all the time if I run my machine over top of my pins, and the answer is no. I'm too afraid I'm going to snap a needle. All right, there's my last one. Now remember, I told you I'm going to leave an opening. I'm going to come over here to my machine. I'm going to sew slightly to in by about 1.5 inches, skip about 1.5 to 2 inches, and then I'm going to proceed to sew all the way around. I will be right back. I finished sewing the full edges of the inside of the cozy, and I flipped it right sides out. And as I was flipping it, I used a bamboo stick. They're specially made for helping you push out pieces of fabric and to get the corners so that they're completely pushed through and a nice crisp point to them. One of the other things you want you to notice is I still have the spot that's here for when it comes to the opening I left so that I can flip it right side out. What I do is I gently fold that in and I use a pin to keep it closed, and then I go around with my sewing machine all the way around the cozy to secure it. It's not necessary, but it does give it a very nice decorative stitch on the edge. Now I've already got that completed with this one, so I'm going to show you. Here is my X. Here is my darts, all 4. Whoops, sorry. Here is the inside. Here is the X in there, and each of their darts, as well as my edge border for all of them. And now I can put my bowl in there, and I can use it for when I'm serving hot items inside of my bowl. As I said, you be creative. Use different types of material, but make sure it's cotton, but different blends. You can use the different fabric styles, florals, stripes, tonals. Have fun with it. This is Dee, and if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to contact me at the library, and enjoy making your bowl cozy.